Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, I think I saved the best for last for this week. And as I teased in the last review, and not to mention that the last Christmassy film that I reviewed and this, they're both celebrating their anniversaries. Yep. And what I'm reviewing, the last Christmassy film that I'm reviewing, everybody considers, from what I've heard, they consider it the best and true adaptation to the story of a Christmas Carol, and I'll agree with them too. Yeah, that's right. I am reviewing The Muppet Christmas Carol, and I've stated this before, this is my all-time favorite movie adaptation of A Christmas Carol. And even though, because this is all about the Muppets and so on, but you know. But anyways, so The Muppet Christmas Carol, what is there not to love about The Muppet Christmas Carol? I mean, there's so much to it, it's just heartwarming, and it's just entertaining, and it's the Muppets, And one thing is that this was the first Muppet film, since the last one, Muppets Take Manhattan, and also the first Muppet film not to have Jim Henson's involvement, because this would come out 2 years after his passing, and not to mention, one of the legendary Muppeteers, Richard Hunt, he would sadly pass away during production, and thus, Muppet Christmas Carol was dedicated to both of them. Yep. So very, very touching, And also, this was the directorial debut of Jim Henson's son, Brian Henson. And he would go on to be a director on a bunch of other Muppet projects, Like, of course, after this, he would direct the next Muppet film, Muppet Treasure Island. Yep. So anyways, Muppet Christmas Carol, the story, read the story. The Muppets performed the classic Dickens holiday tale with Kermit the Frog as Bob Cratchit, the put-upon clerk of stingy Ebenezer Scrooge, played by Michael Caine, other Muppets, Miss Piggy, Gonzo, Fozzie Bear, and Sam the Eagle, weave in and out of the story, while Scrooge receives visits, from spirits of 3 Christmases, past, present, and future. They show him the error of his self-serving ways, but the miserable old man seems to be past any hope of redemption and happiness. Yep. So, of course, again, we all know the story of a Christmas Carol, and even though this has Muppets to it, very simple, because Scrooge is a mean old man who only cares about money and greediness, and he gets haunted by 3 spirits to show him the true meaning of Christmas and to redeem him and so on. But yeah, so first off, the songs, let's talk about the songs first. The songs were really memorable, and they were great songs, written by none other than, Muppet family man Paul Williams. Because he had done a lot of Muppet films, writing songs, starting with Emmett Otter's Junk Band Christmas. That was one of the first Muppet projects he did, and then afterwards, he would go on to write the songs for the Muppet movie. So yeah, the first Muppet film. And of course, some of the songs There Goes Mr. Humbug, and, After All, There's Only One More Day Till Christmas, or, also, the Marley Brothers song. And that's another thing too, because, because Gonzo, who plays the part of Charles Dickens, and Rizzo the Rat, he plays himself, Gonzo says, the Marleys were dead to begin with, and, it's not just one Marley, but there are 2 Marleys, and could you not tell who the Marley brothers are? It's Stadler and Waldorf. Stadler is Jacob, and Waldorf is Robert, Jacob and Robert Marley. So there's their song, we're Marley and Marley, our hearts were painted black. That's a pretty good song. And this was the first time in quite a while where Stadler was this time performed by Jerry Nelson. He was the first Muppeteer to perform and voice Stadler. But then, of course, Richard Hunt would become the official Muppeteer / voice for Stadler. Until, of course, Richard Hunt, he sadly passed away, and then Jerry Nelson once again took on the role of Stadler again. Also the rest of the songs, like there was also I remember now, because one song that was the key to the film, which I'll get to a little bit later, because some of the other let's also talk about, say, the Muppets as well, like some of the other Muppet characters who they play in this, Kermit, he's Bob Cratchit, but also Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker, they play the roles of the two gentlemen that come to Scrooge about the charity donation, the orphanage and so on, and pretty funny, oh no, something about Honeydew and Beaker, but not yet. And also Bean Bunny, because he has a supporting role in this. He was the one that had the guts to sing at Scrooge's office, and it was pretty funny. And also Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. Let's talk about Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. He was fantastic in this. In fact, he said to Brian Henson that he would play this role seriously. Like, he wouldn't do anything Muppety. He would do it like, say, how people would act on stage of Royal Shakespeare and so on. And Brian Henson loved this, that, he encouraged Michael to do it. And God, he played Ebenezer Scrooge so well. Whether if he did this with the Muppets or just a simple, movie adaptation of a Christmas Carol, he's fantastic as Scrooge. He's a perfect actor to be Scrooge. Just when he's Scrooge and interacting with the Muppets, he takes them seriously. It's really cool. And also Scrooge's nephew, Fred, played by Stephen McIntosh. Yeah. And of course, Fred, inviting his uncle to a Christmas dinner tomorrow, and, saying, Christmas has done me good, and I say, God bless it. Also, it's not just Bob Cratchit that works with Scrooge. There are also many rats that are Scrooge's employees. That's interesting, because usually it would just be Bob Cratchit, but there's more than just one. And also, the ghosts of... Okay, and let's talk about the ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, Future. Of course, starting with the Ghost of Christmas Past. And the Ghost of Christmas Past was performed by Karen Prell. I think I got that right. The sequence, the whole, Scrooge's Christmas Past was pretty good, because, as we all know, Scrooge seeing his childhood years, and during Christmas, and he was often alone, and Christmas time, he managed to still get him to do some, work and such, education, and his headmaster, who better to play Scrooge's headmaster, none other than Sam the Eagle. Yeah. And I remember, because, when me and my dad, we watched The Muppet Christmas Carol, he laughed when he saw Sam the Eagle appear on screen, because Sam the Eagle was one of my dad's favorite Muppets, top favorite Muppets, I should say. Even say Sam saying, "It is the American way," and Gonzo correcting him, and, "It is the British way." A breaking the fourth wall moment. There are plenty of breaking the fourth wall moments in this film. So, you know, as that's a signature for the Muppets sometimes, with the exception of Muppets Take Manhattan. So, and of course we come to the segment with, you know, the Fezziwig, and who better to play Fezziwig than Fozzie Bear? Fozziewig, that makes perfect sense. And Scrooge's first job was Fozziewig's rubber chicken factory. Makes sense. The Electric Mayhem making an appearance, and Animal, the only Electric Mayhem member that gets a few lines. Like, he's getting everybody to quiet. Thank you. You know, and Fozziewig giving his short Christmas speech. Thank you and Merry Christmas. And we get an appearance of the Marley Brothers. We see Stadler and Waldorf as their younger selves. We would see that again in Kermit's Swamp Years. They do make a cameo as when they were younger. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. And during Fozziewig's annual Christmas party, oh, yeah, also get an appearance of Fozziewig's Ma, and during the party, and also young Ebenezer Scrooge, yeah, played by Ray Caltred, if I'm saying that right, yeah. That's when young Scrooge meets Belle, played by Meredith Braun. And that's when, 5 years later at Christmas, that's when, like, it's over. It's over between Belle and Scrooge, and, you know, even when Scrooge says, "I love you, Belle," and she says, "You did once." And that's when we have the one song that was cut from the film, from the theatrical release, but we did get the director's cut, and it was restored, you know, and that is "The Love Is Gone," beautifully sung by Meredith Braun as Belle, and even Michael Caine joining in, and it's really amazing, because Scrooge, you know, he can't continue singing, he gets emotional, you know. It's a very touching and sad song, you know. Some people say that Meredith Braun, you know, as Belle, she smiled during that emotional song, but no, I mean, she wasn't smiling, like, it's just her natural face as she was singing. You get my point. So, you know, and of course, after Scrooge's Christmas past is over, and, you know, like, why do you delight in torturing me? And, you know, I told you, these were the shadows that, you know, that happened, you know, do not blame me. And just the last words that Scrooge says to the Ghost of Christmas Past, "Leave me," and yeah, that's it. And then, of course, we come to Ghost of Christmas Present, and the Ghost of Christmas Present was very enjoyable, and being performed by Jerry Nelson. And of course, another great song number, and that is "It Feels Like Christmas." Yeah, that was a very entertaining and great Christmas song. And also, like, some Muppets that appear in this. First off, like, you know, another Muppet character that Jerry Nelson had one of his Muppet characters, New Zealand, had made an appearance. You know, "Get your boomerang fish, you throw them and they come back to you," you know. And Sprocket from Fraggle Rock, he appeared in this a couple of times. And also, one of the horses in Muppet Christmas Carol was actually named after Richard Hunt, named Richmond. Was it Richmond Horse? Like, was horse in the name? I can't remember. And also, there are mice Muppets in this. It's pretty clever, like, how, like, the people of, like, the Jim Henson Company, how you can tell the difference from the rats and mice as Muppets. So, yeah. So, like, the mice, like, they pop up here and there in the film, and especially with one mice, you know, "Please, sir, I want some cheese." And, of course, you know, the mice does get cheese at the end. So, and, of course, like, you know, Ghost of Christmas Present takes Scrooge to see his nephew. They're playing games, and that's when, like, you know, Fred is, you know, they're doing that game of "Guess Who I Am," you know, and, like, at one point Scrooge says, a cat, and Fred's wife, Clara, played by Robin Weaver, she says cat, and Scrooge is like, I said it first. Yeah, it's like she can hear him, and that's when, Fred is, saying, an unwanted creature, and Clara figures it out. It's Ebenezer Scrooge, and that was the moment for Scrooge when, it did hurt him, but I think it also made him realize, because how awful he had been for such a long time to the people and to his nephew. Just makes perfect sense. And afterwards, the Ghost of Christmas Present takes Scrooge to Bob Cratchit's house, and who better to play the part of Bob Cratchit's wife, Mrs. Cratchit, than Miss Piggy? Of course it would have to be Miss Piggy playing Mrs. Cratchit. And their children, because the two twin pigs and, their two frog sons. And, of course, who better to play Tiny Tim than Robin the Frog? He's perfect. He's the perfect choice for... Robin the Frog is the perfect choice for the role of Tiny Tim. And also, I'd like to point out, there are some amazing camera shots with the Muppets. Like, they really went this far. They really came a long way with camera angles and how the Muppets are shot. Looks much better and enhanced. Like, you get my point. But and especially one camera shot where Scrooge looks down at Bean Bunny as he's singing, and the one shot of Bob Cratchit and Robin, they're dancing and making their way home, and it was pretty amazing. And also Brian Henson even said everybody was amazed when they saw Kermit blowing the candle. So yeah, but and also Tiny Tim getting his song number, another touching song number. Bless Us All. Yeah, that was a great song. And that's when, Scrooge really grows a strong, is very concerned and, grows a strong, what's the word I'm looking for? Bond, I guess you could say, to Tiny Tim, and is very concerned for Tiny Tim, because... It's all because, as we all know, Tiny Tim is not really feeling well, and if he doesn't get better and doesn't get the special treatment, he may die. And that's when Scrooge's Christmas present is coming to an end, and that's when the Ghost of Christmas Present grows old, and I leave you with the Ghost of Christmas yet to come. The future, and until the bell strikes 12, and go forward, and oh ho ho ho, and thus Ghost of Christmas Present is gone, vanishes, and thus enters the Ghost of Christmas yet to come. And yeah, the Ghost of Christmas yet to come / future was pretty cool, and the music that was played, the Ghost of Christmas Future's music, theme, that was pretty good, da na na na, that was pretty good. And we, of course, see Scrooge's Christmas future, and he doesn't know this at first because a lot of townspeople talking about somebody who has died, and I only know that he is dead. We first see the pigs talking about somebody who has died, and the pigs, oh my gosh, there was one funny moment with the pigs during the opening credits where, that was a fine meal. Yes, what should we do now? Let's have a lunch. Oh, good idea. That was pretty funny. Was that improvised? Brian Henson and Dave Goelz, they were talking about that, and because Dave Goelz was one of the pigs, so I can't remember, and of course, we also see, Joe, the Muppet Spider. Is he supposed to be a tarantula or something? I don't know, but I kind of liked Joe. He was a pretty cool spider Muppet, and what do you got for good old Joe? And these are still warm, these bed sheets, and what they got from somebody who had died, like their home, I guess you could say, and they gave the stuff to Joe. And then we come back to the Cratchit house, and well, you know, Tiny Tim had sadly died, and Scrooge realizing that and is very upset to hear about that, and that's when we come back to the cemetery. And by the way, I forgot to mention, because didn't talk about about Gonzo and Rizzo. Well, and that is Gonzo as Charles Dickens. They have some hilarious moments in the film, especially like with Rizzo, like with a bag of jelly beans and jumping off a gate and going through the gate bars to recover his jelly beans, and Gonzo's like, "You can fit through those bars?" And like, "Yeah," and Gonzo's like, "You're such an idiot." And also like Rizzo's tail accidentally catching on fire. That was pretty funny. And Rizzo falling down the chimney and on top of the roast beef, like, you know, the Christmas dinner, that is, being roasted. And that one moment where, like, one of the one frog kid says, you know, "It smells good, Mother," and like Miss Piggy as Miss Cratchit's like, "It does, doesn't it?" Pretty funny. Yeah, and oh yeah, about Gonzo and Rizzo, they kind of chicken out and they're too scared to be there during the whole Christmas future scenes. You know, "This is too scary. I don't think I want to see anymore." And Gonzo agrees with Rizzo, and, you know, "You're on your own, folks. We'll meet you at the finale." And that's what happens. We don't see them until after the whole Christmas future thing is over. And and with the cemetery, yeah, because Scrooge and the Ghost of Christmas Future / Yet to Come, they come back to the cemetery, and Scrooge sees his own tombstone, and that's when he finally says this, you know, "I will honor Christmas, like, I will know Christmas in my heart, you know, please, can this change?" And of course it can. Like, everything's good for Scrooge. He's in his room again, nothing's changed, and he hasn't missed it. And, you know, he tells Bean Bunny to go get the turkey, and he, you know, wishes everybody a Merry Christmas, and wishing a Merry Christmas to Gonzo and Rizzo. And it was at that point, I think, yeah, Brian Henson said this, at that point, when it was all over, that's when Gonzo and Rizzo, they were no longer invisible. They couldn't be seen. Even Bean Bunny seen them, and, well, Scrooge wishing them a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. And Scrooge meeting up with Honeydew and Beaker about the charity donation and how much he'll put in. And Honeydew's like, "I wish there's something we can give to you." And Beaker, he has a red scarf, and he gives it to Scrooge. "A gift? A gift for me? You know, and thank you, you know, 50 times, you know, and a Merry Christmas." And by the way, speaking of Honeydew and Beaker and Sam the Eagle, they did have some song numbers, but they were cut. Like Sam's song, like, you know, "It's a golden opportunity, you know, graduation." And Honeydew and Beaker's song, like, I think this was supposed to be after Scrooge threw them out, and, you know, if they'd rather die, then they better do it. Yeah, that. I believe that's where the song number was supposed to happen. Also, the Swedish Chef, can't forget about mentioning the Swedish Chef, like his appearance in Fozziwig's annual Christmas party as Rizzo and Gonzo, they come up to him and, you know, "There's a buffet over there, I'm kind of hungry." And Swedish Chef, "This Bernie Hershey," and he reveals, like, singing grapes, "Fa la 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 la," and Rizzo's like, you know, "Mother always told me never to eat singing food." Why would you? So, okay, but back to where we were, like, you know, another great song number. This is one of my favorite ones that Michael Caine sings, you know, "With a thankful heart, da 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 da." That's a great song number too. And that's when, like, he, you know, meets with his nephew and his nephew's wife, Clara, giving them presents, and then we get an appearance of an old Sam the Eagle and Fozzie Bear. Aside from Stadler and Waldorf, like, this was the first time we'd see any other Muppet characters old, you know, and that, again, that being Sam the Eagle and Fozzie Bear, that was pretty funny. And Scrooge, like, he gave cheese to the mice, you know, as I said earlier, and of course, you know, pretending to be, you know, awful to Bob Cratchit, you know, and, like, Miss Cratchit, who has a feud with Scrooge, like, is about to just, you know, puts her foot down and just, like, confronts Scrooge, and, you know, that's when, like, even, like, Scrooge says, and therefore I'm about to raise your salary. And that's when, yeah, Scrooge brought a lot of, everybody, like, came to the Cratchit house, and a lot of Christmas food and so on. And as Gonzo establishes, you know, Tiny Tim, who did not die, you know, and Scrooge, and according to Gonzo, as Charles Dickens, Scrooge became a second father to Tiny Tim, and very sweet to hear right there. And one last song number, and this time it's The Love We Found. Yeah, like Scrooge and Tiny Tim singing it, and everybody singing it. Like, it's like the whole town people came to the Cratchit house, and not all of them could fit in. That's funny. And like Gonzo and Rizzo saying goodbye, and the mice even said goodbye. Is that another breaking the fourth wall moment? I guess. I don't know. And like Rizzo, right before the credits roll, like Rizzo says, "Nice story, Mr. Dickens." And Gonzo's like, "Oh, thanks. If you like this, you should read the book." What a way for that being the last lines, you know? Oh, man. I tell ya, Muppet Christmas Carol, it's a really amazing and fantastic movie adaptation of the story of A Christmas Carol. And as I said, like, from what I've heard, people say that this is like a good, like, it's like stays true to the story, you know, as I said earlier, and I'd have to agree with them. I think so too. And definitely, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. And yeah, just, it's amazing, it's charming, it's heartwarming, you know, cute, and it's for all ages, and for anybody who loves the Muppets, you know? And this popped in my head, one more thing. George the Janitor, does anybody remember George the Janitor? Like, yeah, he appeared in this a couple of times, and once again, being voiced and performed by Frank Oz, because he Muppeteered and voiced him during the Muppet Show Season 1, so thought I'd point that out. So yeah, again, what do you guys think of The Muppet Christmas Carol? What did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review a like as always. So, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Muppet Christmas Carol, and it's been fun for what I reviewed this week of Christmassy films. I think I picked some pretty good ones. A couple of Christmas Carol movie adaptations, and, you know, one that is a sequel to Home Alone. So yeah, and yeah, happy anniversary to both Home Alone 2 and The Muppet Christmas Carol. Yep. So that's it. This has been this week's list of reviewing Christmassy films. I hope you guys enjoyed. And speaking of the Muppets, stay tuned next month, and, you know, for the new year, where I will be reviewing something else that has to do with the Muppets, and should I say, Jim Henson. So stay tuned for that. So anyways, take care, guys. Peace out. Thank you for watching, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you guys. And there will be one more Christmassy review this coming Saturday. Take care and peace out.